Well, a social media baker is setting off on a cross-country road trip this summer to celebrate the release of his cookbook, Baking Across America, and that includes right here in Maine.
That's right. He's widely known for his videos, remakes, and comments on vintage American recipes. B. Dylan Hollis joins us now to talk about his baking adventures. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. It's my first time in Maine.
Oh, that is awesome. So tell us, what brings you to Maine today?
Well, today I decided is going to be the day where I have my first lobster roll. But of course, we've got a book signing. We're celebrating Baking Across America. And with a name like that, I reckon you need to go to a few places. So Maine was definitely on my list.
Yeah, so what in Baking Across America, like you think that pertains to Mainers that they would like?
Ooh, well, heavens, we talk much about the low bush blueberry muffins and just all of these creations. Maine seems to be obsessed with the blueberry.
Yep.
Absolutely flooded with the blueberry. And whoopie pies. Now, I'm familiar with whoopie pies throughout sort of New England and this area of the country. But in 2011, I didn't realize Maine declared it to be their official state treat. Do you folks eat a lot of it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You kidding
I'd
me?
say so, yeah.
Hey,
we have some good blueberry ice cream up here, lots of different snacks.
Life is short, eat dessert first. That's what I say, right?
Yeah. I like the way you operate.
Yeah.
So why vintage American recipes? What draws you to something like that? Because there's a lot of unique ones, some funky recipes I've seen online. Why something like this?
Well, when you head back, that's when a lot of these recipes were established. I think for good reason that these old recipes through old cookbooks have survived. You know, the recipes that our grandparents baked, our great-grandparents baked. It's not the new fancy things that we pull out at Christmas or even Memorial Day. It's these old school ones. There's power there. I remember going through these old cookbooks, and I would bake things that were sort of, you know, ambiguous and some strange ones there. But then I would bake something that was famous from a particular state, and people would go feral. They would go wild. They were treating it like a hero. I remember when XY used to bake this, and that's the pride of my state, pride of my city. So I said, that's very interesting. There's power in these recipes. It's more than just a set of instructions. It's a celebration. And dessert, it's a frivolous thing. You know, you don't really need to serve it. Of course, I think you do. But it's an exercise in putting smiles on faces, not just things on tables.
Yeah, it's funny, growing up, my mom used to pull out the Betty Crocker cookbook.
Oh, yes.
And cook so many things for me. So this almost kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, and it's coast to coast. And the great thing about the United States is just how varied the states are. I mean, it's one country, but it's sort of like you've got 50-odd countries within there. We talk about whoopie pies and low bush blueberries here, but then you go to California and you've got, you know, dates aplenty. It's wild. Plus, everything here seems to pair very well with coffee.
So I did see one of your recipes on your TikTok. I think it was Spam peanut butter cookies.
Ooh, yes.
Why something like that? And do you try these recipes after?
Well, yes, I don't have it. Thankfully, I don't have anything like that in Baking Across America. But through experimentation, you know, weird things were going on in the 1950s, 1960s. I couldn't tell you why they had these ideas, but yeah, the Spam peanut butter cookies, I think it's just a way to sell more Spam. They say, how can we get it in recipes outside of savory? So I can still kind of taste them, despite the fact I baked them about 3 months ago.
Oh, man. They even have a Spam museum around the United States.
Oh,
I can't remember where
all
it is.
set with that.
What's your background with baking?
So actually, I stumbled into baking in 2020. I have a music degree, but I figured I needed to do something that made me some money. So I got into baking just by happenstance. Of course, during COVID-19, we all started new things. Friends of us started to knit, crochet, paint. I was never very good at any of that. So I gravitated toward TikTok, and I started baking through these old recipes because I had always been a collector of old things. My daily driver's on the front of this book. It's my 1963 Cadillac. So I would just sort of flip through these old cookbooks and find things that stuck out. So the first time I actually baked for real was on video on TikTok in 2020. And it was a recipe called the pork cake, which was a fruit cake with a pound of ground pork in it. And I said, there's no way this is a real thing. And sure as night follows day, it was. And it was very bizarre. And that started it all. It blew up, that video. So folks started sending me cookbooks into my P.O. box, and post office got very angry at me because there were too many. But that's what started it. So I learned how to bake on TikTok, and to think that this book here is now in front of me is a bit wild.
Yeah, before we get more into this book here, we did see that you tried Moxie for the first time.
Yes!
What was that like?
It's puts hair on your chest.
Yeah.
I'll say that. It's got vim, it's got vigor and vitality. There's a bitter aftertaste, but it sort of wakes you up more than coffee. You know, it's like a gut punch, but in a good way. I'm a big fan of Moxie, and I see it a lot here. You don't see it a lot outside, do you?
No.
Outside of Maine.
I don't think so.
No.
No.
A lot of people say it's a mixture of cough syrup and Dr. Pepper. That's the kind of way they complain.
Yeah.
Hey, ever in your wildest dreams when you started this in 2020, do you have to pinch yourself maybe go, man, I really have 10 million followers. I get to write a cookbook. I get to travel across the country and visit all these places. Isn't that crazy how this just came out of nowhere?
It's wild. It is, number one, immensely fulfilling. You know, even to sit here, you know, with you folks talking about this. 5 years ago, I would have never imagined I was going to be a music teacher. And meeting these people, going to these book signings, and talking recipes from yesteryear, it's crazy. And no, I think there's going to be a period, perhaps in 10, 15 years, when it finally comes upon me that this is a fantastic opportunity. But right now, I just know it's crazy. I'm very thankful, very gracious for it all, trying to stay gracious, rather. And I'm, yeah, going along for the ride.
Oh, that is so amazing. What are the details of today's event?
Yeah, so 1 p.m. at Books A Million here in town. I'm very excited about that. We'll be signing and giving a good in conversation with Kristen Fisher about, you know, the whys, the hows, the whens of baking across America, and I'll be able to sign books and meet Mainers. So this will be, again, my first time in Maine, so I'm excited to hear all the stories.
Well, do you have a favorite recipe that you have now or maybe that you grew up with?
Well, you know, it's a bit like picking a favorite child. You have to be careful, and I'm cognizant of where I am. So, of course, I've had a whoopie pie already last night. So I have to say, whoopie pie is on my mind, and now Moxie is on my mind. So currently, whoopie pies is my favorite recipe, although I am partial to dates and some of the recipes in California. Dates are my favorite fruit, although it should be blueberries here.
That's right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate having you on.
Thank you kindly.
And if somebody wants to follow you, how can they follow you on social media?
At B. Dylan Hollis, all across the board, and further information can be found in links where you'd expect it.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, coming up, meteorologist Emily Santum will be joining us